Welcome to 20 Minutes of Clarity, your go-to podcast for financial insight and advice.
With that being said, I have with me today Andy, the man merchant. Once again, excited to have this conversation with you, Andy. I'm your host, Jason Noble. And today we're carrying on with the theme of scare. Not just scare, but worry, concern, anxiety. Oh my gosh, great topic of conversation. But stick around with us because we're going to get into goal setting. Why do people have a concern when it comes to setting your own goals, especially around finances? Are they worried about being on a budget? Who wants to deal with that, right? Or are they concerned to hear, okay, you have this goal, but you can't achieve it on your current pace? What could it be? So we're going to dive into that today. And then as we go through this, we want you to think about what's holding you back from setting your own personal goals and seeing how you could go about achieving them. Andy, when it comes to like setting goals within finances, what do you think causes people's concern or anxiety?
They don't know the outcome. They don't know what to expect. We've trained people in our industry that you save money, you put into a 401k, you invest it, you live on a percentage of the money. But what does that really mean? What are the conversations are limited, right? And I think that puts fear is if you don't know what it is you're asking, if you don't know the direction, you're usually not very confident in engaging in the work that goes ahead of time. So I think that's just the biggest thing is that I just think people are just kind of lost on, okay, so let me set a goal on my finances. So what is that going to be? What's that look like? And what's the outcome? How do I know if I was successful in setting that goal or not? And it's got to be more than just market return.
Yeah, and how does that fear impact their ability to be able to move forward?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If they don't have a goal because they're worried about like not knowing where it's going to head to, then how could they possibly move forward in achieving what they're trying to set out for, whether it be retirement goals or say down payment on a new home? I mean, there's so many different financial goals. One of the things that we like to do within our client portal is set those goals specifically. And then we could even assign money to those goals so that people could see how they're on track to be able to reach them. It's a way to take that concern and give them transparency and going, okay, you're at 60% chance of reaching your goal. It's wonderful. So when we do a meeting, it's like, okay, this goal is getting closer, right? Here's some tweaks and adjustments that we need to make. In order to do that, take a look. Now we move that goal from 60% up to 92%. Is this something that you want to do? Right? It's going into like pulling that lever, pushing that button, making those tweaks and adjustments so that they could be closer to reaching those particular goals. One of the things that I do find to be interesting is like how business owners operate. Business owners operating in their goal setting is very different than I would say, let's say, generally speaking, an employee of a business. Now, this is on a case-by-case basis. Everyone is listening. But what I'm getting into is business owners, majority, have strong goals that are designed. Andy, what are your thoughts to that? Why do you think that could be?
Well, when you think about it, how a business operates, I mean, many that are listening to you and probably work for a business or own your own business, right? Unless you're just inherited a massive amount of wealth and can just live as a trust baby, out there. But the majority of people that everybody that's listening and viewing this today works with a business at some level for it or in it. And if you think about it, they measure the goals are always set. How many of you out there are like, hey, we got a production goal that we got to make, or, we have an output goal, or we have a call volume or goal to make. Those goals are all driven by a specific set of indicators that the business has identified as the key drivers, right, of the business. The term is KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. And the reality is that's what drives businesses. Then businesses can budget, make decisions, make tweaks, because business is going to change. You don't know the goal you set in a planning session in October the year before is probably going to have to make some adjustments and tweaks along the way into the new year, right? Because life changes, things change. It's no different than personal finances. The problem is most individuals don't have that resource team. They don't have their board of directors to sit down. They don't have their leadership team that all have their segments, right? Jason, you and I are big followers of EOS, right? It's an entrepreneurial operating system. It allows us to set goals for our business in a simplified fashion, right? And it makes you think at certain levels, and then how are you going to achieve it, and who's going to be responsible, but then more importantly, how often is that going to be reviewed, right? I know you use it every day, and with your team, as we all do. But why not? The question is why not bring that efficiency of business and measurables to everyday personal financial planning? Like, we are the team. We can surround the network to become your board of directors, right? We can also be on your executive team. I tell clients all the time, you're the CEO of your life, right? We just take the role of your personal, of the CFO, right? We're going to help you with those financials and budgeting, so that it doesn't become kind of an open-ended, hey, great, I want to retire when I'm 65, but then we're going to throw some pie in the sky and have no numbers to realize that, and make adjustments. So that's the call to action right now is, start thinking about running your life as your own. And we can go into some of the KPIs that we use in the Clear Picture Wealth program, which probably be helpful, that help us set those measurements for people to think through and as they make a decision of how they want to do it. But that's the game plan anyway.
Yeah, when I'm thinking about the fear that comes into the equation of setting goals, it's either the fear of failure or the fear of change. Because I'm not saying it's the only two, but those two are the ones that I see that are the most pressing. I'm just thinking of a particular client where we were doing a goal setting and they wanted to retire at the age of 53. In that, it was doable, but they would have to make significant changes in their current lifestyle. Were they willing to make those changes in order to accomplish that goal of an earlier retirement? And the method that we were doing was the FIRE method, financial independent, retire early. It was, if I was to give you traditional wealth management advice, it's to max out our 401k, this and that. Well, that's not going to help unless we do the 72T, right? And then having the tax implication. And then, by the way, that would also impact the healthcare costs, right? So we had to go to a different approach that was customized specifically to what their goal was. But that was a lot of change into the plan, right? And they were like, well, let me think about it. Well, then they came back and they go, no, it's okay. I'll work to 65. Wait a second. We just had this amazing conversation about you retiring at 53. It's doable. You could do it. We have to change what buckets of money that you put your money into. We'll have to change about the way that you think about investing. We'll have to get more passive income coming in, right? Things of that nature. And I think that fear of change from what he learned from his parents and what he learned from his coworkers that didn't have the same goals, they talked him out of it because he himself didn't want to make those big amount of changes. Now, I know he listens to this podcast, and I know you know who I'm talking about. He knows, right? But why am I bringing this up? I want you to come back. He's a client of mine. Okay, Andy, he needs to come back in so we could revisit this. Because when I was thinking about this topic of what causes this concern and this fear of goal setting, like there's so much that people have to think about when it comes into it. And I think it could get overwhelming.
Well, it takes a commitment, right? I mean, to set a goal, you have to commit to that change. And that change this might be the first time you've ever set goals around your financial plan with somebody that could actually drive results around it. Then you have to commit to understanding that, which requires education, which requires you to, do some research to get comfortable with it, because, you have to implement your own plan. We talk all the time, right, Jason, in our stuff. It's like, I can't care more about the plan and the success of the plan than the client does. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's the thing. And so if we set goals for clients and we align the why of those goals with clients, and then we set accountability measurements on doing their task, who's going to do what, right? I mean, people come to us all the time, and if we don't do our task, we hear about it, right? Hey, you lost money in the market. Yeah, well, my task was to diversify your money, not make it grow every single day. We want to do that, but it's not achievable. But I can tell you right now, I can be accountable for making sure that you have all the information you need in order to protect your family, if that's a goal, right? Protect your family from loss of wealth through a liquidity event. We can go meet with an estate attorney. We can go buy insurance, but you have to do your part and actually have to sign the documents and have those meetings and give those outcomes. So I just think people just fear more of the fact that they're going to be held accountable to do something that they don't know the answer to.
Yeah, there is a commitment that's involved. But if the goal is big enough and it's personalized enough that it's important to you, then you will be willing to make that commitment and stick to it. One of the things that I did with our office administrator, she wants to become a financial advisor. And before she was working here, she was also working at an accounting firm. So in that, what I had her do in one of our one-on-ones, again, being part of EOS, right? We're having one-on-one training setting. I go, let's talk about your goals for the next 12 months. What I want you to do in the next 10 minutes, if you need more time, let me know. I want you to write down 10 things that you want to accomplish within the next 12 months. So I left the room and I came back and she had 10 things written down. I said, okay, I'm going to wave my magic wand and one of them is going to be accomplished above all else. Which one do you want me to select? And what she wanted to, like of her top 10 goals, some were personal, most were business related. She said, I want to be licensed as a financial professional. Okay, so that means she has to get her SIE, her Series 65, right? Now, one of the things that I'm big on in my office and within our team approach that we work with, Andy, is what can you specialize in? What would be the niche that you would have that you have passion for? You have, like, not me saying we have this white space. Like, no, you come to me going, I want to be great at this. She said accounting, taxes.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I don't want to do 1040s. I don't want to do the tax returns, but I really want to be engaged into appropriate tax planning conversations for business owners, for real estate professionals, for corporate executives. Like, this is where I want my space to be. Okay. So I'm already kind of geeking out, right, Andy? And I go, okay, so we have 4 quarters. I want you to write down what you got to do over the course of the quarters, what you have to do over the course of the month, break that down into the week. Okay. You got 30 minutes to do this. I come back, she has her quarter, she has her month, she has the weeks broken down. Now the CPA, it's going to require 24 hours of postgraduate education. She's already looking at what that could do within the next 12 months so she could get her preliminary goal done. So then she could then go and get the CPA. The other thing that she was also bringing to my attention, this is her level of engagement in her own personal goal, is there's a credential called PFS. And you have to be a CPA to get the PFS. She goes, I want to get both. Now, she has 1 year to do the 12-month goal, even though her bigger goal is going to take longer than that just due to requirements. So that was last Thursday at the time of this recording. This Monday when I came in and we're meeting with you, that was on my way in. She was like, I've already taken a look at these 3 colleges for my CPA so she could take her 24 credit hours. That's an example, right, of how you're watching and listening right now. What we would like you to do is pause this. Write down 10 things that you would want to accomplish in the next 12 months. And then what we want you to do is wave your magic wand and pick one of them, okay? And go, okay, now I have this one. I'm going to put attention and focus on this one. and break it down to quarterly, monthly, and weekly.
Yeah.
Do that. It should all connect. The weekly should connect to the monthly should connect to the quarterly should connect to the year. You do something like that, and then you put your attention and focus on that one thing, you'll be surprised on what you'll be able to accomplish. It'd be absolutely incredible. We want you to comment what you're able to do. What is the one thing you waved your magic wand on? And then we will follow up with you. Send us a message. We'll follow up with you in a year and see how that came about. And we're going to see a clear distinction of those who actually did the quarterly, the weekly, the monthly, and the weekly versus the ones who just came up with a goal and then break it down into more manageable pieces. So we just gave you how you could go about doing this.
Yeah,
Andy,
I just want to add to it. I mean, I think you nailed it on there. I mean, if you tie it into the everyday industry, I think Sharon, Karen's story about her goal, and a lot of people can set goals easily around their profession, right? But how do you set goals around your personal life? And I think, taking that right now, if you're a client who's out there and you've had this experience, you're probably listening to, I've come in, I've done a financial plan with another advisor, and they've told me what it's going to look like in 20 years from now. It's so far out. How do you break those down? So what I wanted to echo real quick on that, Jason, was that let me just walk through a little bit about the initial engagement of the Clear Picture Wealth Program, right? Our initial questionnaire is all about goals. What is your target retirement date? Doesn't mean you have to stick the line in the sand and call it that's the date, but let's pick whatever the ideal retirement. If that's 53, shouldn't you build a plan that makes you achieve that if you can? If you can't, oh well, let's talk about expectations. So first thing is we want to know goals, right? Then we want to ask you the question that Jason just mentioned there, right? To everybody that's listening and viewing this, it's what is top of mind right now? What is keeping you up at night when you think about your financial success? That's the priority goal. So we have a whole checklist. You go down. Is it high, middle, low, right? Because then we can start having a conversation around it. It's why our very first engagement is called the core value conversation. It's a discussion around what Jason just highlighted and then learning a little bit more data so that we can all get on the same page. This can be fun, right? And then the second component of that, then we take all of that subjective information, that personal data, and we bring in the real numbers. What's your 401k balance today? What are your efforts to savings today? What cash do you have today? What life insurance protection do you have? Have you done a will or a trust, right? All this fun stuff, simple questionnaire, doesn't have to take very long. The marry of that two pieces of data together is what creates the clear picture analysis. And the only thing I want to highlight, you can go to clearpicturefinancial.com. You can listen to an entire video on what it is. There's some screenshots and other information on it. But here's the thing, the KPIs we measured earlier that a company uses those to drive their business. The KPIs that drive your personal financial plan, right, Jason, is going to be, do you have optimal cash management? Are you putting assets in the right buckets? As you indicated, like a client that wants to retire at 53 has to have a different set of liquidity and different set of buckets than someone that's completely fine with working until they die at the desk, right? It's a different set of strategies. Those two together you have the most control over. Like we can do that. But then what those two pieces of data together do for us is it helps us forecast. Can you meet the retirement lifestyle that you want to meet? If not, what do we have to adjust? Wouldn't you rather know what you have to adjust way in advance, or do you want to wait to the last minute? Don't do it with your finances, right? Then it also tells us the last two things of those KPIs is, do we have the right protection strategies? The last thing we want is our plan to be disrupted because we didn't come home tonight, right? Or we didn't want our plan to be disrupted because we overpaid taxes that we could have been more controlled on, right? Those are things that we have to address. And then the final thing is, are we transferring our wealth to our family in the manner that we would want to have that? Again, we don't control when our wealth transfers. Our wealth is going to transfer when it's time for it to transfer. Do you have what's in place? So if any one of those questions, if you don't think that your cash flow is optimal, that your savings rate isn't ideal, or you don't have enough money in the bank account today, that you're feeling like paycheck to paycheck and stressed, that's the first step that we're going to review for you, right? If you just think, okay, I'm just putting all my money into 401ks, but I don't ever have any cash. The middle class is in a liquidity crisis today because they can't access the cash they have when they're accumulating assets. Let's sit down and figure out how we free up some of that money. And then from there, Jason, our team, who's experts in every facet of financial planning, will create that short-term measurable plan that aligns with your priorities, and then together we'll create a plan. I mean, you see, I get excited. I know as we're wrapping up to the end of this, but that's the why. And those that stuck to the end of this podcast today got the best message out there. Those that are going to have to go revisit in future ones, those are other ones. But that's the call to action. Clear Picture Financials is the place to go. If you care about your own success, you've still got questions, that's where you got to go.
Well, that was Andy the Man Merchant. I am Jason Noble. You just tuned in to 20 Minutes of Clarity. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you, and we'll be back next week.